well, good afternoon. My name is Mark Bagby. I'm the president of Emergency Planning Solutions. We've been retained by the college for the past 2 years to help enhance your emergency management program. So that entails, we've helped write the emergency operations plan. We've trained a lot of faculty, staff, and students on basic emergency preparedness. And we've also trained a small team of Whitman employees to be responders. So there's actually an emergency operations center team, as well as your executive leadership. We put them through training and exercises, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. This session is emergency preparedness for faculty, staff, and students. The college administration wants to ensure that people know what to do and what's expected of you for those kind of basic emergencies that may happen on campus. So we're going to talk through those, and then towards the end, we've got an active shooter, active violence portion as well. So a little bit about me. I've got 18 years and going in the fire service. I spent 13 years at Washington University in St. Louis building their emergency management program. I'm a certified emergency manager, and through Emergency Planning Solutions, we've provided emergency management guidance to hundreds of K through 12 and higher ed institutions since 2008. So always start out with some kind of little quick question stuff of thinking about what would you do if you walked out of the building right now and saw that? Would you know what to do or what not to do? You know, this could be after a tornado or a severe thunderstorm. You've got trees down, you could have power lines down. It's not something we just want to walk right into. Or something like that. You know, so that's some of the, hopefully some of the answers we're going to, some of the questions we're going to answer today of, you know, hey, what are some of the things that may occur here, and what do you know and what should you do? Both of those pictures were from actual incidents that occurred here at Whitman. Some of you may have even responded to them. So what are the goals for today? One is to increase situational awareness. So what is that? All right, we're going to do just a little drill real quick. Everybody close your eyes. Now hold up how many fingers of how many exits there are from this room. All right, I've got some 2s, some 3s, and 4s. Open your eyes. Correct answer is 4. There's 2 in the front, 2 in the back. That's part of situational awareness. Know about your surroundings, know what to do in the event of emergency. Put yourself in those situations and ask, what if? If this happened, how would I respond? All right? If the fire alarm went off right now, which door do you think most people would go out of? Come on, be honest. The one you came in. So most of you rush back that way because we're creatures of habit. All right? You know, so now we're going to all get bottlenecked there. You know, we need to think about our surroundings. You know, those in the front, your closest exit is right up here. For those in the back, your closest exit is in the back. As long as it's not blocked, we need to use every exit that's available. All right. The other goal is just to make sure that everyone understands what to do and what's expected of you for those kind of basic emergencies here at the campus. So what has Whitman done? So again, they've retained us for the past 2 years. We've written your emergency operations plan. We've done a lot of training. That emergency operations center team and your executive leadership team, they've gone through multiple exercises. They're actually going to go through 2 tomorrow, where we put them in realistic scenarios and make them work through the problem from emergency to what is the new normal. They test, you've got an emergency notification system. Well, over this past year, you've actually gotten a new one that's rolling out this fall called Whitman Alert that's much more robust and gives a lot more options. And then we've done various trainings for not only the Whitman community, but also with our first responders, Walla Walla Fire Department, Police Department, Sheriff Department, because they're going to respond here and they need to know how to integrate with the Whitman college staff and vice versa so that we can have the best outcome possible. So what can we do to keep our campus safe? One, practice that situational awareness. You know, go back to your area, just take 30 seconds and think about, hey, if this happens here, what would I do? It trains your brain. Also, if you see something, say something. So if you see a suspicious package, somebody that seems out of place, or somebody that shouldn't be in a certain part of the building, make the call. Security or the police can come check it out. If they're supposed to be there, then that's fine. They'll let them go on their way. But if not, they will deal with it. There's 2 ways to report an emergency. The first one, the classic 911. All right. Anytime it's a dire need, we need police, fire, EMS, call 911 first. Then if you have time, call campus security. All right, they are on campus, they can respond, but we need to get those services on the way first. Also, security does have a radio and they're listening to that dispatch frequency, so hopefully they hear that police, fire, EMS is being dispatched, but sometimes they may miss it, and by calling that number, it rings to a cell phone that they have on them. All right, we also need to take care of our community. Especially you get freshmen coming in, first time away from home, heavy course load. They may have some issues, they may struggle. So if you notice something, you can refer them to the counseling center. Maybe there's a trusted residential advisor or a staff or faculty member that they're willing to open up and talk to. But the counseling center number is there and it's available on campus. If it's an employee, you can talk to your immediate supervisor or contact human resources. We've got the employee assistance program that can provide some help to employees. So how is Whitman going to communicate with you during an emergency? Well, we've got that new system, Whitman Alert. It can text you, it can email you, it can do voice calls. It's tied to the voice IP phones that are in classrooms and at most of your desks and offices. We also have the website, emergency.whitman.edu. There's a lot of great information on there on basic emergency preparedness and some videos, but it's also a message board where they can post, campus is open or closed, or here's what we want you to do. Also social media, Facebook, Twitter, there's official Whitman accounts. If you use those types of social media, you can follow those and get information as well. All right, when responding to emergencies, it normally fits into one of three categories of what we have to do. Either evacuate, shelter in place, or lockdown, and we'll talk about each of those. So some of the common causes for evacuation are listed up there, but most commonly fire, gas leak, bomb threats are some things that you've experienced here at Whitman. So what do? One, be aware of your surroundings and know multiple ways out. So in this room, we've got 4 exits. How many exits do you have in the spaces that you normally occupy? For some of you, because I've been in some of the buildings and around, you're like, hey, there's only one way in, one way out. I'm at the end of a hall. Well, look around you. Maybe there's a window, maybe there's a fire escape. Just look around and think about, hey, how can I get out of here? If you or someone that needs physical assistance in evacuation, there's 2 different ways. If it's a student, you've got the disability support services. For an employee, supervisor, human resources, they can help build an individualized evacuation plan, help get you an evacuation buddy, and maybe they can then help evacuate out of the building if it's on the first floor. If it's on a lower floor or upper floor, they can get that person to a safe location and then let first responders know that, hey, there's a person in a wheelchair or that can't do stairs on the 3rd floor on this side of the building, and the fire department will then go make that rescue. So how do we evacuate? So we get alerted somehow. The fire alarm goes off, we get a text message, or it could be word of mouth. Facilities, security comes around, hey, there's a gas leak, we need to evacuate the building. We want to follow their instructions, get to the closest exit as quickly as possible. Hopefully there's one close. Maybe it's blocked, so they say, hey, we need you to use the main entrance, go this way. We want to try to avoid elevators. In a lot of emergencies, the power can go out, you can become trapped in the elevator. If it's a fire, that acts like a chimney, you're feeling that heat and smoke. So stick to stairs, hallways, and doors. If it's safe to do so, close doors behind you as you go. By doing that, you're slowing the spread of smoke and heat, giving people more time to evacuate. It also normally means less property damage because you don't have all that smoke and heat damage. Once outside, move to a safe area away from the building. Don't stand in the middle of the parking lot or the street because we've got to get first responders in. Go across, stand in the grass, out of the way, and try to account for people as best as you can. All right, shelter in place. This is when something bad is happening outside and we want people to go inside. There's not really a human element to it, so it's typically severe weather or it could be some sort of like hazmat spill. So if you're outside, we want you to come inside. If you're inside, stay in the building. We want you to close doors and windows. You don't have to lock them. We just want to try to keep the stuff out. Shut down air handling if you can. So the main HVAC, heating and cooling facilities would have to do that. But in some areas you might have like a window unit or an auxiliary fan. Shut that off so that we're not drawing outside air in. Try to move to an interior room. Try to avoid basement because a lot of gases and stuff settle in the basement. And stay there in the building until first responders say it's all clear. Now if there's a human element, threat of violence, active shooter, civil unrest, protest starts and then it gets violent, we may ask you to lock down. That means we want you inside, lock the door, and then trying to be out of sight. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about some specific emergencies that may occur here at Whitman. So these are the most typical that we see in higher ed altogether. The main ones we're going to focus on today are fire, severe weather, medical, and then threats of violence. So fire prevention. Most of our fires can actually be prevented. A lot of them are human caused. So here are some things we can avoid to prevent fires. One, candles and incense. We don't want to use them on campus. A lot of people, they'll use them, they'll forget about them, they walk away, then it starts a fire. Hot plates and stoves. We'll see that in some of the residential areas. Somebody doesn't like eating in the cafeteria. They buy a hot plate and cook in their room and cause a fire, set off the fire alarm. Portable heaters, especially in wintertime. People might grab that, oh, it's too cold in here. Well, the older type of heater, they're a coil heater. They tip over, they don't shut off, they start a fire or they short out. The newer ones have anti-tip device that if they fall over, it cuts the power. Instead of coils, they have a ceramic block, so typically they can't catch on fire or catch something on fire. We'll talk a little bit more about extension cords in a minute, but those two do-nots I want you to pay attention to. In residential areas, labs, sometimes even in kitchens, we'll see smoke detectors and smoke alarms get covered up. They want to smoke in there, or their experiment keeps setting off the detector. So they'll take like a Ziploc bag or a paper bag and duct tape it over the detector. What's wrong with that? Yeah, its job is in its name, smoke detector. It's there to detect smoke. If that bag's in the way, now you got to have a fire big enough to burn or melt that off before it sets the alarm off, thus delaying notifying the building, and now it might be too late to evacuate properly. So if you see that, we need to get that taken care of and taken off. The other thing is we'll see items hanging from sprinklers. So sometimes, oh, here's a good place for my dry cleaning, or, oh, I'm going to hang up my decorations. Well, the problem with that, there's just a little glass vial in those in those sprinkler heads that holds back a little metal plate. When that gets disturbed, all that lovely water comes down and makes a big mess. All right? A simple hit from a Frisbee or a jarring can do that, so we don't want to hit or put stuff on the sprinklers. All right, so extension cords. They're just for temporary use, like for that day, and then we need to unplug them. They're rated at a certain capacity. A lot of times we'll overload them. They'll heat up and cause a fire. Or we'll cover them up with like a rug, and over time, they wear through and either start a fire or electrocute someone. Door stops. We're a very open community, so a lot of people do use door stops, which that's fine. But in the event of emergency, kick it loose so that door can actually close. Some if it's attached, flip it up so that door can close. We want to keep hallways and storage areas free and clear of stuff, because if we get a major fire, there's going to be smoke. You may be crawling on your hands and knees. And if you're running into all this stuff, you're going to become disoriented and may not be able to get out. And again, we got to know the locations, exits, and multiple ways out in case our main one is blocked. So if you see a fire, the fire alarm has not gone off yet. Normally on the ground floor by the exits, if you look on both sides of me, there's a little red box with a white T handle. That's a pull station. You pull that, the fire alarm goes off. All right? Your other option is you can call 911. Please get out of the building first. We don't want you to call 911 and spend a minute or two on the phone and then not be able to exit the building because of the fire. Get out first, then call 911. As you're going, if the fire alarm's not going off, yell, scream, hey, fire, get out, knocking on doors, things like that. Get out of the building, remain as calm as possible, and help other people. We do have visitors here. We've got new students and the like. They may not know the procedures, so if they're kind of wandering around, hey, there's a fire, follow me, we'll get out safely. The other thing is there are fire extinguishers in most of our buildings. If you're trained and feel comfortable using that on a small fire, you may, but none of your job descriptions say that you're a firefighter for Whitman. We care more about you getting out, life safety first. The fire department will be here very quickly to deal with the fire. All right, fire alarm goes off. If you have your personal effects like your keys, wallet, ID card, right there, grab those and take those with you. You may not be allowed back in the building for days, maybe even ever, and now you can't get in your car, you can't get in your house or apartment. I'm not saying though, go back in the building, go upstairs, find it and grab it. It's just if it's there, grab it and go. Again, closed doors, very, very important. Closed doors, closed doors, closed doors. So what happens if you're trapped? You try to get out, you can't. You want to go to hopefully an exterior room. Hopefully there's a window. Again, that's that situational awareness, kind of look around your area. Close the door. If there's multiple doors, close all those doors. Then try to block the door so that smoke doesn't come in. Clothing, paper towels, whatever you have, if you can wet it, even better. You're just trying to slow the spread of that smoke into the building you're in. Then call 911, report, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm trapped in this building, in this room, there's a window, I'm going to signal out the window. Try not to break the glass unless you're on the first floor, you can actually break the glass and get out. If you break that glass prematurely, now you're introducing oxygen that could be feeding the fire and make it more dangerous for you. Just stay by that window, signal for the fire department, let them come break the glass and get you out. All right, weather-related emergencies, we do have a couple that do affect us, especially ice and snow events. We do occasionally get some flash flooding. We could even have a large pipe burst and cause flooding in a building. Then we have severe storms and tornadoes. Now, we don't get a lot of tornadoes in this part of the country, but occasionally we do. But we definitely get some severe storms. We get a severe thunderstorm with 50, 60, 70 mile an hour winds. That can be just as bad as a tornado. All right, campus officials, they do monitor the weather through National Weather Service out of Pendleton. If something major happens, they can issue an alert for that. We can also, most of us have one of these glued to us. There's plenty of apps that you can download for free. The Weather Channel, local media and stuff that can alert you to weather as well. Two key terms that I want you to pay attention to, because a lot of people confuse them, are watches and warnings. So a watch means that there's the potential for that weather to develop. So the recipe is kind of there, it just hasn't developed. It might happen. You might get some information a few days ahead of time or that morning, hey, 50% chance of a thunderstorm later this afternoon. All right, this is the time to prepare. Think about, hey, if it gets bad, where am I going to go? If you have an outdoor event planned, you need to make a decision of, do we cancel the event? Do we move it indoors? Or do we just continue to watch the weather very closely to make a decision a little bit later? If the warning is issued, that is time to save lives now, go to the lowest level possible interior space. So if the warning does come out, we want you indoors, not outdoors. Close doors and windows. Get to the lowest level possible interior space. If there's a basement, that would be it. If not, the first floor, interior space, something like normally your bathrooms are on an interior space, interior hallway, interior office. You're trying to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible and try to stay away from glass. Get down on your hands and knees and then use your arms or a book or a folder to protect your head and neck from flying debris. Stay there until the all clear is issued. We don't want you going outside. Sometimes there's multiple waves of weather, so that all clear may take a little while. We don't want people out there taking videos of the tornado or the stuff blowing around for the YouTube channel. We want everybody to stay safe. All right, a medical emergency, pretty common. We may not hear about it because it's very localized in a building. But if someone's experiencing a medical issue, again, 911 first so we can get EMS, then campus security. All right. If you're trained to do so, you can provide aid. So who here in the room is trained in CPR or first aid? Okay, a little bit less. A lot of our sessions, about 50%, raised their hand. So there's a lot of people on campus that do have some training. So there's a lot of resources out there. If you don't have the training, that's okay, and you can go get it. But there are things that you can do as well. One, a lot of times there'll be gawkers and people are crowding in, so you can just help push people back to give the person room, give responders room to work. The other thing you do, let's say we have a medical emergency right here, we could send a runner or two out here to the street to help wave down first responders and guide them in. Hey, the emergency's over here, there's a door right here. Otherwise, they might be kind of not sure where to go in the building. All right, the rest of the presentation deals with active shooter, active threat. It's a hard thing to talk about, and unfortunately we do have to talk about it, all right? While there have been a lot of shootings in K through 12 and higher ed, we're also seeing a lot more mass shootings just in the general community. Walmarts, Home Depots, theaters, churches. So what we're going to talk about now, not only can you apply here at Whitman, but also out in the community. I want you to remember 3 things by the time you leave here. First thing, it can happen anywhere, anytime. We hear all the time, oh, that'll never happen here. We had people at WashU say that. We had 3 campus shootings while I was there. Didn't just happen once, it happened 3 times. If you see something, say something. You see somebody with a weapon walking around, somebody suspicious, call it in. Let's get law enforcement there to check it out. Again, if they have a right to be there and nothing's illegal, they'll let them go along. But I'd rather you err on the side of caution than not report it and something bad happens. A good example, University of Central Florida. A student was kicked out of school. They let him stay on campus for a few extra days so that he could gather stuff, figure out where he was going to go. Well, in that time, he decided, I'm going to get my revenge, I'm going to shoot up the place. So he devised a plan. He goes out in the hallway, pulls the fire alarm, figuring that would pull everybody in the hall, and then you have an open shooting range. Well, about at the same time that he's pulling that fire alarm, his roommate walks in the room, sees the gun, he walks back in to grab the gun, the roommate locks himself in the bathroom, calls 911. The shooter decides to shoot himself because the gig is up. So even in the last moment, that phone call, that interaction saved a mass shooting from happening. So don't wait. If you see something, say something. The last 4 words, you probably heard 3 of them: run, hide, fight, but also report. We've got to call law enforcement and get them en route as soon as possible. So where does all this start? There's a bunch of different reasons, bullying, many different things, but a lot are tied to some sort of mental health awareness. So if you're seeing some of these signs, it definitely means the person's having an issue. It could lead to a mass shooting, maybe not. But if we're seeing people do things like this, we need to report it and get them assistance as soon as possible. So it could be they're making verbal or physical threats, bouts of depression, unexpected mood shifts, being obsessed with weapons all of a sudden. Normally they're just a happy-go-lucky person. Oh, I want to buy this gun and that gun, and I'm going to buy 10,000 rounds. Normally that's not normal. Substance abuse, drug or alcohol use. These are all triggers that if you see that in somebody, please report it. So what happens if the active shooter or threat of violence actually starts? Again, 4 options: run, hide, fight, report. Run. Can you get out of the area? If you can't hide, can you safely find a place to lock or barricade yourself in? Fight. If you come toe-to-toe with the shooter and do nothing, what's going to happen? You might die, you're going to become a victim. Why not fight for your life and at least have a chance? Maybe you can disarm them, maybe it buys you a few seconds to run out and hide somewhere else. And then again, report. We've got to call to get law enforcement. Call 911 first, and then campus security. So we got a little target here that we'll use in the next couple slides. So the bullseye area, that would be where that actual shooter is, and the rings are further out from that. Maybe out in the hallway, on another floor, in another building. Every situation is going to be different, so you need to use the information at hand to make a decision. Now, run, hide, fight is not an ABC type thing. It's not a continuum. You may start with hide and then end up running. You may fight and then run and hide. Every situation is going to be different. You've got to use the real-time intelligence that you have. So why run? What's the goal of evacuation? To get the heck out of there. Now you can't be a target because you've removed yourself from the situation. It also helps law enforcement because when they show up, do they know who the shooter is? No. Maybe there's a loose description. Hey, there's a white male with a black shirt. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's at least 5 of us in the room. So they don't know who the shooter is. They're going to treat everybody as a suspect. If we can remove people from the equation, that's less people they have to wade through. Know your own ability to do so safely. If you just broke your foot last week and you're on crutches, are you going to be able to effectively run? No. So that may not be an option for you. You got to know your escape routes, again, situational awareness, and then use cover and concealment. So what's the difference between cover and concealment? I know what cover is? Sorta. What's cover? Yeah, so cover prevents you from being struck by bullets. So like a concrete pillar, a car, possibly a tree, metal lockers, something like that. Concealment just hides you. So I could hide under a desk, I could hide behind this chair, they may not be able to see me, but a bullet could pass through. A lot of the drywall walls, that's concealment. The bullet could travel through there. Now if I put a wooden desk against that wall and hide behind that, now I've got both cover and concealment. So use that to your advantage. If you're running, don't just a straight line out of the building, maybe you weave between a couple trees so that if they do see you, it's harder to focus on you and shoot at you. So if you run, remember to try to help others, but don't let them hold you up. So if it's like, hey, Bob, we got to go. Come on, Bob. No. It's your life. You got to make the choice and run. He's got to make his own choice. Leave your belongings behind if they hinder your movement. So I always pick on my wife. She got a purse about this big. She puts a bunch of stuff. The kids all throw their stuff. And in the end, it's like 20 pounds. Is that going to be effectively carrying that and running? Probably not. My backpack's probably 40 pounds when I travel with everything I got to grab. Leave that behind. That can be replaced. You can't. Ladies, kick off the heels. Men and ladies, you got sandals, flip-flops on, kick them off. You can get down the stairs faster. You can run faster. Again, that stuff can be replaced. You can't. Try to warn others as you escape. Maybe the alert hasn't gone out yet. Maybe people don't know what's going on. So, hey, there's an active shooter. We need to get out. As far away as possible. Get off campus, run into the neighborhood, maybe to a business, knock on the door. If they won't let you in, maybe at least they'll call the police because there's some person screaming in their yard. All right, at least you're away from campus and safe. Once you're safe, call 911. If you don't have the security number in your phone, please do so today. In the event of emergency, you're not going to remember that number. You're not going to have time to go to a website or look on some poster. Program it in there so if you've got a problem, 2 clicks and you've made that call. So what do you tell police or security if you're the one making that call? One, as much information that's factual. Don't embellish, don't make stuff up. If you actually saw the shooter, what they look like, what they were wearing, what building they were in, or they were outside. Did they have a handgun? Did they have a long gun? You don't have to be a gun expert, but just some basic information so they can pass along to law enforcement. Also, weapon description. So the FBI terms an active shooter as someone engaging in actively killing people. It doesn't say it has to be a gun. It could be a knife. It could be a fire extinguisher. It's just something they're using to harm people. Lone Star Community College in Texas a couple years ago, that person used a knife and stabbed 10 people as they walked down the hallway. And a lot of people, they didn't kind of know what's going on because there was no sound. But that was classified as an active shooting. Do not hang up unless the dispatcher tells you it's okay to hang up or they hang up on you. So they're dispatching and law enforcement out. They're also listening in the background. Do they hear gunshots? Do they hear screaming? Even if you can't talk, they can still hear. So put the phone down and let them hear. We've had some people say, okay, if the shooter's right there, I'm afraid if I talk, I'm going to give away my position. That's okay. Maybe you can text a colleague or a family member and say, hey, I'm in Maxey Auditorium at Whitman College. Can you please call 911 because there's an active shooter outside my door? And then maybe they can call for you. All right, so running's not an option for whatever reason. So now our next option maybe is to hide. Again, we're going to use cover concealment. So we're going to try to lock ourselves in a room. If it doesn't lock, we want to barricade ourselves. Put as much furniture and stuff as you can quickly. Many of these shooters, they're looking for quick and easy targets. So if they encounter resistance, they move on. Another thing you can do, think outside the box. If the door doesn't lock, use a phone cord, a laptop cord, a belt to try to tie the door shut. Some of your doors have a closure device, a piece of like V metal at the top, wrapping something around there and tying it shut. It's amazing that you can only open the door maybe an inch when you do that. So think outside the box. Close blinds and curtains, turn off the lights, hide behind other objects. So just because you got it barricaded, if you've got that desk or filing cabinet, get behind that because that gives you additional cover, additional safety. Turn off or silence phones or pagers. Definitely silence it, otherwise you'll give away your position because once the word gets out, your phone's going to be blowing up. But sometimes you even got to just turn it off. Even when it's on silence, that vibrating, if you're against something metal or depending on the type of floor, that can make a lot of noise. So you've got to kind of make that decision right then and there. All right, a good case study, Northern Illinois University. So months before, of course, was Virginia Tech. In the time between Virginia Tech and Northern Illinois, there was a lot of media coverage, what to do and what not to do. A lot of schools started building lockdown and active shooter programs. So in that short time, some students took notice. So in this case, February 14, 2008, a student from the University of Illinois had a disagreement with his girlfriend at Northern Illinois University, knew her schedule, and decided he was going to come and start a shooting rampage. Similar building to this, large auditorium, tiered seating, raised stage, except there's a door off to the side that you get from the outside hallway. He comes in onto the stage, immediately shoots the professor. Then he starts shooting into the crowd. The people in the front, what do you think they did? What's that? Well, so the people down in front, they hid. They used the chairs as concealment. The people in the back, what do you think they did? They ran. Okay? Now, at some point, and we don't know what happened, but he stopped shooting. Maybe his gun jammed, maybe he was out of ammunition trying to reload. But somebody, and we don't know who it was, never identified, said, hey, he stopped shooting, get out. So those people that were hiding then got up and ran out. Now, some things that went wrong. Everybody went out the rear entrances. So what happened? We had a big bottleneck. People were getting trampled, bottleneck. Other classrooms were emptying, and they all were trying to exit out the main entrance. Law enforcement kind of had a similar problem. They didn't have that situation awareness. They all tried to come in the main entrance and were delayed 1 to 2 minutes because they were trying to fight through this crowd of people. They didn't think to use alternate entrances. But again, in that short time, students thought about both running and hiding, and it saved many lives. All right, fight. So we're coming toe-to-toe with a shooter. We can't get out. We can't hide. We can either make the decision to be a victim, or we can have that anything to survive mindset and possibly survive. The goal is to be aggressive and don't stop. I don't want to just sit there and punch the shooter and stand back and see what they're going to do. I got to be all in. The goal is to incapacitate them, get the weapon away from them, to then handle the situation, or to get a few seconds to get away. We can use distraction techniques as well. So a lot of times these shooters, they get a form of mutism. They kind of focus in, they kind of don't see or hear things necessarily. So by you yelling and screaming, you might kind of get them out of that for a few seconds to give you time to incapacitate them or get out. Think about improvised weapons. Just think about what you have in your area. Books, laptops, chairs, scissors, a beverage, maybe a hot cup of coffee. All those things can be used as a weapon to, again, either stop that or give you a little bit time to get out. Now, did one of these sessions for a school, and there was a lady from HR. She came to 3 of the sessions. After the second session, she comes up to me and she said, "Hey, Chef Boyardee is my thing." Like, okay. No, after the training, I went back to my office and looked around, and in my drawer, I had a can of Chef Boyardee in case I forget to bring my lunch. So now that's on my desk, and if somebody bad comes through the door, they're getting Chef Boyardee to the head. You know, she took the advice and went back and looked at her area. You know, Chef Boyardee sitting on her desk doesn't look dangerous, but it's her thing to grab in case something bad happens. Kirkwood City Hall. Businessman in town, Cookie Thornton. He was a very frugal businessman, had rental properties, some commercial properties. So where you might cut your grass every 5 to 7 days, he would try to go 15 days, because then that's only 2 cuttings and less money out of my pocket. Instead of bringing the property up to code, he cut corners. So he would get a lot of zoning violations and fines, and of course the city attorney's name is on the bottom, and here's how much you owe. So he would come to city council meetings and raise a lot of cane with the council members and the city attorney, and sometimes it got so heated that they had to call a police officer. So the city council started posting a police officer at every meeting. This particular night, Cookie had enough. He comes to the meeting. The officer was running a few minutes behind, so he wasn't already inside. They meet in the parking lot. They're used to seeing each other, so, hey, Cookie, how's it going? Cookie pulls out a gun, shoots the officer before the officer has time to react. He then goes into the council chambers and starts opening fire. The council chambers is kind of a raised stage, a U-shaped dais, city attorney at the end, and there's only kind of one way in, one way out. So as Cookie's shooting, he sees the attorney and starts focusing on him. The attorney starts grabbing a chair and throws it at Cookie. What does Cookie do? He ducks. By ducking, what can he not do? He can't focus on shooting the city attorney. So the city attorney all right, this works. So he grabs another chair, moves over, throws it. Grabs another chair, throws it. Gets out and saves his life because he fought back for his life. All right, so what do you do? So if there is a threat of violence, an active shooter, again, those 4 words: run, hide, fight, report. You've got to use the information at hand to make a decision of which one is best for you. And as the situation changes, you might have to change your tactics as well. If you happen to not be on campus, we don't want you to come to campus. Again, it's not safe. We don't want more people for law enforcement to have to deal with and filter through. But what I do want you to do, make sure you text or email your supervisor, hey, I'm safe, I'm off campus. So at least that way we can account for you. All right, I want to talk about the police response a little bit, because sometimes we have friendly fire from actions that we take. So the first thing, as soon as somebody calls 911, the cavalry is coming. All right, it'll be an all call. We've got a problem. So, you'll see probably Walla Walla PD, the sheriff department, state police. A lot of times we'll see an FBI or ATF agent, Department of Wildlife, things like that. They get the call, they're coming. So you might see a variety of uniforms, different colors, different badges. You may see plainclothes police officers, just in a polo or a button-down shirt. They may have a badge hanging from around their neck or on their belt. You might see different weapons, depending on what they're issued: so handgun, shotgun, rifles. They may be in tactical gear. The picture here is a typical 4-officer diamond formation. So if there's 4 of them, one would be in the front, one in the back, one on each side, so they can cover all angles. Their main goal is to get to the shooter and stop them from shooting. By doing that, they then render the scene safe so first responders can come deal with the victims. Now, this is a hard thing that officers have had to kind of retrain themselves, because they're used to helping people. They're used to getting the scene and assisting somebody that's shot. In this case, they've got to step over those people to, again, get to where the shooter is, to get the shooting to stop. So how can we help police? 1, abide by the campus weapon policy. So what is the campus weapon policy? No weapons are allowed. So in the annual security report, there's a full listing, but things, so guns, airsoft, BB guns, pellet guns, knives, things of that nature, they're not allowed on campus. Now, Washington is an open carry and a concealed carry state, So on public property, they can legally do that if they're properly permitted. So they could be on one of the streets out here, they could be on the city sidewalks, but as soon as someone steps on a campus property, no. So if you see something, report it. You had a question earlier. Well, what if I see somebody with a rifle on a gun rack in the back of the car on the city street? Should I call 911 or campus security? Well, yeah. Let them check it out. We don't know what the intentions of that person are. They may be on campus to do harm, or they may just be innocently here. But law enforcement can check that out. If it's fine, they let them go on their way. Security may watch that vehicle for a little while just to make sure that we all still remain safe. We don't want to have officers. We want to try to remain as calm as possible. It's going to be a crazy, hectic, scary scene, but just try to take some deep breaths and calm yourself. Try not to scream. The more you get amped up, the more everybody else gets amped up. Follow the officer's instructions. You may be pushed to the ground. You may be handcuffed or detained. Again, they don't know exactly who the shooter is at that moment. Once they figure it out, they're gonna, those that are innocent, they're gonna let go. They may ask you to put your hands up or your hands on your head. You always want to, when your hands are up, fingers spread so they can see that you don't have any sort of weapon. We never want to point at officers. So let's say I'm the officer, I'm coming in the room and you're trying to tell me the shooter's over there. So you start going like this and I walk in the room, what's this look like? Potentially a gun. You could get shot because of that split second. It looks like a gun. They're trying to defend themselves. And again, just understand additional help's on the way. It's going to seem like hours, but it's really going to be minutes. Typical response time for Walla Walla PD to campus is 2 to 3 minutes. All right, we got a couple scenarios to see what you remember. So what kind of situation might we have here? Fire. Okay, so what do we do in case of a fire? Stay away, shut doors, evacuate, pull the fire alarm, call 911. Do we use elevators? No? Okay, now let's say we're trapped in the building. What might we do? Shut doors, use towels or clothes. If you can wet them, even better. Go to a window, don't break the window, call 911. You let them know where you're at. Let them come rescue you. Very good. All right, what about this type of case? What might we do? Follow instructions, run, fight, hide, report. What else? Some do's and don'ts. Don't point, don't scream. Don't what?
Don't take your stuff, just go.
Okay, yeah. Go. Don't wait on others. Don't let them slow you down. Very good. So again, remember, practice situational awareness. So you all have homework. I know, grown. It's easy homework though. Sometime this week, just think about in the areas that you most frequently go to, your office, a classroom, the gym, whatever case may be. Think about if a fire broke out, if there's severe weather, if there's a medical emergency or an active threat, what would I do when I'm in this location? What's my safe route? The more you think about this in your head real quick, the better prepared you are for when it actually happens. And it'll lead to a faster response. Again, look out for your fellow Whitties. So help each other out. If someone's struggling or have an issue, report it to get them the help. If it's during an emergency, if you can quickly help them as well. Watch emergencywhitman.edu. Again, there's a ton of information on there, basic emergency preparedness, some videos, but in the event of emergency, information is going to be posted there. Campus is open or closed. We want you to do X, Y, Z. It's a really good site to pay attention to. And with that, questions? Yes, ma'am.
If we have to pull the fire alarm, does it automatically connect to 911, or do we also need?
All right, good question. So the question is, if you pull a fire alarm, does it notify 911 for you? So it's kind of a yes and no. So it does go to an alarm company, and then they're supposed to call 911. But I always recommend calling 911 yourself because you might have some additional information. All right, so while that may say, fire alarm pulled in Maxey Hall, you might actually know that, hey, there is flames showing in room 301, and there's people trapped. So by doing both, one, it verifies that 911 has been reached, and they have additional information pertaining to the incident. Good question. Yes? Yeah. All right, so the question is, if there's an active shooter in the building next to you, what do you do? So you've got to use that situational awareness and look like, okay, am I safer running the opposite way to get off campus, or am I safer just hunkering down and locking myself in the room? Again, it depends on, can you run? Is it icy outside? Do you know exactly where the shooter is? Maybe they're at the entrance and now they're coming to your building, so by running, you might be running into them. So you've got to kind of weigh all those options. A lot of people are like, I'm going to get in my car and drive away. Well, you might not be able to get to your car. If everybody goes to try to get their car, we're going to have a traffic jam. If you're running, you got to run on foot and get away, and then when it's safe, come back and you get your car. Other questions? Yes? Yeah, so that's a hard one. I mean, anytime you're reporting somebody suspicious, in a sense, you're profiling. But if it makes you feel uncomfortable, or you see that they're actually committing a crime, definitely make the call. If they're innocent and allowed to be there and doing what they're doing, security and law enforcement will let them go on their way. But a lot of times you don't know. So err on the side of caution, make the call, they'll check it out, and let them on their way if it's nothing. Yes.
I teach generally on the second floor of Poland, and so I seem to have very limited options. I mean, if it was an active shooter situation, I could close my classroom door and lock it. But I've often thought, wouldn't it be good if some way to get the students out the window and to leave? Do you know if Whitman is working on trying to actually plan for each building additional escape routes to what's there currently?
Okay, so the question is, like for Olin, are we working on additional strategies and stuff? Yeah, so real quick, so yes, they are. Marvin is a great resource to bring in to look at things. Yeah, he was right here.
And he would want me to tell you
Yeah.
that he has a building captains program. He's working his way through, starting, I believe, with the academic buildings and working his way kind of out. And I believe he's management, like in the case of Olin and Maxey, divisional office staff. He's done surveys of all the buildings. So, yes, if he comes back in this person, you should call him and say something about it because he will want to say something.
Yeah, and if not, just give him a call, drop an email. He's happy to come and look at that. With a lot of these situations, you go back and you look at, for fire or for active shooter, you're like, I don't have any options in here. Sometimes a fresh set of eyes will just help look at that. Sometimes it's reconfiguring furniture. In the case of Virginia Tech, for instance, students were working together and like helping each other out the window. A lot of them were on the second floor, and so trying to daisy chain people down. I mean, some people jumped and broke an ankle, but they're alive. So it's looking at those different options. Other questions? None? Well, I thank you very much for your time. I don't know where the sign-in sheet is. In back, so if you didn't sign in, please come to the front and sign in. If you have any other questions, I'll be up here for a few minutes. Otherwise, thank you for your participation and have a great evening.